Well, as you probably have noticed, the service is a little bit different today. So when we come to the invitation, as some of you hurry up to get out and beat the rush crowd, do not do that today because that is not the end of the service. And you will miss a very significant part. So when we come to the invitation, just hang on to things for a second and hang around with us. Today is my last week to preach from the book of Revelation. And, I am so excited about Revelation because, many times I'm sure that you have preached from Revelation or heard others preaching from it. And usually we think of it in terms of the prophecy of all of these horrible events. And people love to I think we're all attracted to the gore and the battles and those things. But this is really a book about a wedding. From beginning to end, it is what every bride and groom should know, what every sinner should know about this wonderful upcoming day. I used to think that the word haven came from the word heaven, but that's not the case. A haven is a word that's based on the verb to have. A haven is where you have peace, safety, provision. Now, heaven is all of that, but it's a whole lot more. And so today's sermon is out with the old things, because heaven is going to be something completely new. And there is no better way to describe it than what is about to happen in Kevin and Ashley's life this week. Now, they have been friends, and they have grown in their love, but their oneness comes this week. And to think about, I'm a Christian. I have a fellowship with God, but it is nothing compared to what's going to happen when I see God face to face. Revelation 21, verses 3 through 4. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "The dwelling of God is with men, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." Now, for just a minute, and we're a fairly small group, tell me some things that you don't expect to see in heaven. Some things you hope that are not in heaven. And I'll just sort of focus over this way first. Somebody over here, tell me something that's not going to be in heaven. Tears, sin, disease, fighting, pain. Okay, pain. Up in the balcony, something's not going to be in heaven. Boy, I told you that's a great place to sleep up there in the balcony. All right, so absolutely not. Okay, when you all wake up, we'll give you those answers. Now, everybody's list is going to be different. When we start to write things that will not be in heaven, I guarantee you that your list will not parallel someone else's list, because the things that we hope to be free of are maybe things that we have experienced in a negative way on this earth. And we long to be free of those things. What I've also discovered is that the older you get, the smaller your list becomes. The older I get, the smaller my list. Why? Because I know that from the moment that God comes into my heart, and that happened 48 years ago for me. For 48 years, God has been expanding his kingdom in my life. And we have a long way to go. I'm not even sure that we're halfway there yet. You know, sometimes I feel like I am really close to the Lord, but then I look at myself and realize that his kingdom's got a lot of pioneer territory to conquer yet. But then as I get closer and closer and closer, and I watch God's kingdom, it begins to take in more and more of what I am, more and more of what I think, more and more of the things that I do and the things that I say. Verse 3, the dwelling of God is with men, and he will live with them. You see, you just become conscious of things. Kevin, listen carefully. You become conscious of things when you live with someone that you would not have paid any attention to before, because those things would not have bothered you personally. But now that you are living with someone, those things become priorities. And so it is with God. The more that we live with God, the more those things become priorities in our lives. If you were here last Sunday, you heard me use a quote in closing the sermon. I want to share that again because that's the bridge from last week to this week. If you could have heaven with no sickness and with all the friends you ever had on earth and all the food you ever liked and all the leisure activities you ever enjoyed and all the natural beauties you ever saw, and all the physical pleasure you ever tasted, and no human conflict or any natural disasters, could you be satisfied with heaven if Christ was not there? And the answer for the Christian is no. It is a relationship of genuine love. And some of us have been blessed physically, financially, educationally. And we may not be as happy as another couple who is married and they have nothing. No house, no car, they walk the streets, but they love one another. Heaven is not about all of these great things. Heaven is about forever being with God and his people. Heaven is a place. But more importantly, heaven is dwelling with God. Now, the things that won't be in heaven will not be there because they simply can't coexist with God. Verse 4 says, God will wipe every tear from their eyes. God doesn't want any one of us to sit there and be sad. So if you have a question about something in heaven that has the potential for being sad, you know that God's already taken care of it. I may not be able to fully explain it, but the Bible very plainly says you will never, ever be sad in heaven. There will be no death. There will be no mourning over people who are deceased or not present. There will be no pain. For all of these are the former things, and that old order of stuff has passed away. One of the things I like about heaven is there will be no loneliness. Now, I think it's wonderful that we are created for relationships with one another. And that doesn't mean that any of us have to be married. But it does mean that all of us are created for some kind of relationship. And if we don't have a significant relationship, we are going to be extremely lonely. But the Bible shows this image of heaven where God literally wipes away the tears. Maybe these are tears of rejection. Maybe these are tears of loneliness or injustice or misunderstanding. But God is going to wipe all of these away. Wow, there was a news story last week. And I wish that we could have the man to come here and share his testimony. 54-year-old James Bain was released from prison after being there for 35 years because DNA proved that he was innocent. Now, if you had been locked up as an innocent person for 35 years and all of your life have passed you by, how do you think you would feel when you emerged from that prison cell? I was intrigued by the news report. And if you get a chance, you really need to hear his testimony. Baines said, I got God in my head. And I knew one day he will reveal me.